On this episode of the WNP podcast, we welcome the commies. Stay tuned. Episode 132 of the We're Not Professionals podcast. I'm your host, Mike Mitchelson, and joining me today, as always, my co-host, Chase Crawshaw. Chase, how you doing?
I'm doing swell. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
And joining us once again today, we've got Graham Weaver. How you doing, Graham?
I'm doing fantastic.
That's phenomenal. Now, I know what a lot of people are thinking. They're thinking, deja vu? Is Mike wearing the same stuff? Of course he is. The Bengals have yet to lose with me in this gear, so we're going to be wearing it for the next
10 days?
60 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not going to take it off in the off season.
No.
Okay.
Because they need to continue to win in the offseason.
Okay.
I'm that dedicated.
Okay.
I know Jim Irsay, right? Or is it Isray?
Ursay.
The owner of the Colts is sending two pairs of people to the Super Bowl, and he wants to know the biggest Bengals fan right here. Not taking this off in 60 years, baby. 60 years from now, I'm going to be in my casket with this.
Let's go.
On today's episode of the WNP podcast, going to be going over two pieces of breaking news, including one out of Washington and then one involving a recently let go head coach. Then we're going to be looking at some of the head coaching hires, what we think their first plan of action should be. Going to go over the conference championship games. And then we're going to go a little bit into the Lions offseason and what we want to see from them. Not going to spoil our predictions for the Super Bowl yet because we're still basically 2 weeks out, week and a half out. So we've got another show to do before then. So we'll preview the Super Bowl and give you our predictions on next week's show. But let's first start off in Washington. The Washington football team are now the Washington Commanders. Graham's shaking his head. If you follow him on Twitter, if you don't, make sure to do so. But if you do follow him on Twitter, you'll know he is not a fan.
No, when the leaks came out, the leaks really started to spring last night when there was that helicopter footage of the window at the stadium, and you could see the store with Commanders on it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, well, that's kind of crappy. And then we saw the uniform leaks, and I was like, dude, you've got to be joking. And then they made it official this morning when I woke up. At the end of the day, I don't care. I don't care about the Washington football team, the Commanders, whatever they are. They're a stinky football team with a stinky owner, and they spent 2 years, and they came out with this garbage? I mean, give me a break.
And even worse, a stinky stadium that puts fans in danger. Chase, what were your initial thoughts on the Commanders?
Bad name, bad logo. I really don't like how I know it's on the darks, so the red and black jerseys. I don't know about the white jerseys. It says Commanders is like a bar above and below it. It just looks stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
It's really stupid. Just say Commanders if you're going to do anything, or like put it in some sort of, I don't know, put it in like a yellow block and have it like stenciled out the jersey color with like Commanders. Do something like that. This just looks stupid. The black jersey would look great if it wasn't for the stupid ass W on the front.
Yes.
The W, if anything, should be changed to an L because that's what this whole process has been.
Yeah.
But honestly, I really don't mind the black jerseys if they're standing there with their helmet off. Everything else, I just can't really get behind.
When it comes to the jerseys, I just don't really understand why they went three different routes for the three different jerseys. Mm-hmm. The red jersey, they have Commanders across the front with the two lines above and below. Then on the white jersey, you just have Washington across in the same exact spot. And then on the black jersey, you have that same Commanders with the line, but instead it's smaller and up to the left.
So weird.
Like, why are you doing a different style for each one? I think it's terrible. You're absolutely spot on with the black helmets. Just having the W right there in the front looks terrible. I also saw a lot of people saying Commanders isn't an NFL name. Like, it just sounds
said
weird.
that.
You might have alluded to the XFL. Sounds like an XFL team or whatever. Well, fun fact for you. The Washington Commandos was an arena football team
Oh my god!
back in the
There we
late
go.
80s. So, Commandos.
They took it from the was it the San Diego
Commanders of the
Commanders
AAF or
of
something?
The AAF.
I think there was a Commanders for sure.
Yeah. Did you guys see the? I'm not sure who it was with, but 2 months ago or 3 months ago now, Chase Young was interviewed, and during a little segment, they went through the possible names for the team, and he gives Commanders an F. Well,
Yeah.
Frankly, if you go and watch it, he gives almost every name they bring up fairly an F, because all the names that they brought up were terrible, except for one, which is the Red Wolves. It was the only one he didn't give an F, and I was like, that's the best one by far out of the ones that we heard that they considered pretty heavily, and they came out with the worst one. This is terrible.
The Washington Red Wolves does not sound good either. I hate the sound of that. I hate the sound Red Wolves. It's just a wolf. It'll just be a wolf if you're hearing that. That's Washington Wolves or Wolverines, or just, my thought process whole thing. If you want to make it something sort of like, military power theme, be the Washington Generals or something like that. Like I don't like that very much either. It's better than the Commanders.
I saw just people roasting it, and I saw one guy say, how many times are we going to hear, and the Commanders are down by a commanding lead? I'm like, that's great. That's really good.
That's going to make your fans really happy.
And by the way, if you're on the YouTube video, you'll see the jerseys already. I'll make sure to get those in so you guys can take a peek. Let us know down in the comments what you think. I actually don't mind the whites, like with the helmet and everything. The white jerseys seem fine to me. I don't love the gradient that they have on the numbers and stuff, but it seems fine. The blacks, the black jerseys, I literally cannot get it out of my head with the helmet, and when it has the helmet, it's just a disgrace.
Their white uniforms are. I feel maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like their white uniforms are pretty ugly. I mean, they have the yellow stripe on the helmet and the yellow W on the helmet, because they only have two helmets. They have the black one, and then they have their main. But the uniform itself doesn't have any yellow in it. It's just like red, black, and white gradient, and I
don't think it works necessarily great with the helmet, but in this picture, the helmet's not on.
It looks like a Texans uniform almost.
See, it reminded me of a Florida State jersey, the Florida State Seminoles. So I was okay with it, but I think they'll grow on me. I think eventually, it'll become normal. I mean, think of us when we first thought the Washington football team. No one liked it, but I think at this point, people are a bigger fan of the football team than they are the Commanders.
I was never a fan of the football team name, but I'll take that 100 times over the Commanders.
So, the I think it was the AAF, the San Antonio team, where they have the San Antonio Commanders.
Yep.
That they were.
Yep, San Antonio Commanders.
The Washington Commanders literally not only took their name, but also took their hashtag. Same exact hashtag take command.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Literally couldn't even come up with anything original.
Thanks, Dan Snyder. You smug owner.
Yeah,
Yikes.
Dan Snyder's terrible. I feel bad for Washington fans.
Yeah, I mean, when you have fans literally falling, well, I guess it wasn't Washington fans, it was Philly fans that were getting hurt by the Washington Stadium, but it's such a nightmare. And they had I don't know what type of cars they were, but they were nice cars, just plastered with the Washington Commanders logos and colors and everything, going out to give out merch. And I'm like, instead of paying all that money for those vehicles, why not fix the stadium?
Yeah.
Right.
So, all right, let's now move on to our second piece of breaking news, and that involves Brian Flores. He has brought a lawsuit against the NFL, the Dolphins, the Broncos, and the Giants when it comes to hiring practices, firing practices, and all of that involving race. So, pretty big piece of news here. And I don't really know what to say. The Dolphins apparently were giving him extra money to tank, or were trying to give him extra money to tank, which I think if people are just learning now that tanking is a thing in sports, then they've been hiding from the truth. because tanking's been around forever.
No, it absolutely has. It's usually often kind of not discussed. It's like an understood kind of nonverbal agreement that an ownership and a team kind of makes. They might hint around it, but at the end of the day, teams kind of know what's in their best interest, and tanking's been around forever. So, just that in the midst of this whole lawsuit, I mean, it really is it just created a whirlwind of stories around the NFL over the last couple of days. On top of the Tom Brady, the earlier announced retirement thing that wasn't supposed to come out. Then he announces his retirement. Then, right after this comes out, it's been, really busy in the NFL, the last few days. But I really need to kind of wait and, with a whole judgment on this lawsuit, because obviously we don't have very many details quite yet. So, I'm trying not to make, any decisions.
Rash judgments.
Yeah. I really want to see more come out of this, but the whole text exchange with Bill Belichick and Brian Flores is really where I kind of, feel a little fishy about this. Not about the incident, about like the lawsuit, but I feel fishy about okay, maybe there's something here.
With the Giants situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know where I fall on it. I think that there is some viable claims that he's bringing up. The things with the Dolphins about tanking, I'm not sure. I don't know why he included that in the race lawsuit, but the thing against the Bills, not the Bills, the Giants, with the texts with Bill Belichick, that to me struck me as fishy. But at the same time, so basically, if I'm to sum it up, Brian Flores texted Bill Belichick, or Bill Belichick might have texted Brian Flores first. And basically, Bill Belichick congratulated him on the Giants job. And Brian's like, I haven't even interviewed. I'm supposed to interview on Thursday.
Right.
And so he's like, and then Bill says, well, I've been hearing that from the Giants and from the Bills that you're their guy. And he's like, Bill, are you talking about Brian Flores, or are you talking about Brian Daboll? And Bill's like, oh my gosh, I messed up. And so to me, you can come at it from two different angles. You can come at it from the angle that the Giants, that there is a race thing in this, with them not even thinking about hiring a minority coach and just bringing him in for an interview for the Rooney Rule. Or you can kind of come at it from the angle that with the Giants hiring Joe Schoen, who came from the Bills, you can kind of say, well, he came in and he wanted Daboll. He knew from the start he wanted Daboll. And, all the other coaches that they interviewed was somewhat of a formality. That's kind of where I think that it's coming from. I think that Brian Flores definitely should have been considered for the job, but when you have a new GM and a head coach in the same cycle, usually a lot of the time if you hire your GM first, they have guys that they like. And obviously I think Joe Schoen had his guy, and that was Brian Daboll. So and they wanted to hire him before Daboll got interviews around anywhere else. So I think that they had a temporary deal in place, and they just had to, comply with the Rooney Rule, which is a little bit kind of shady to me and just bad practice. Is it worth a lawsuit? Is it like a racist act? Maybe. But that's kind of where I'm at with it.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, you brought up the fact that you think Bill Belichick probably just has both Daboll and Flores in his phone is just Coach Brian.
Yeah, 100%. That seems like a very Bill Belichick thing to do. Every coach in the league is just in his phone as Coach Brian, Coach Cliff,
Coach Josh, Daniels.
Yeah, like 100%. So, I think that could happen, but just want to make one final point and then bring up this I have here on my computer real quick. I agree with the sentiments being shared that once the GM role was filled, it seemed pretty clear to me that it was going to be Brian Daboll's job. I said that pretty much right away once the GM role was filled.
Oh, you're so smart.
Oh, I'm well aware. Thank you. But to kind of provide some footing for the whole Rooney Rule lawsuit, So I finally found the numbers. In 2020, the league changed the Rooney Rule, so teams have to interview at least 2 external minority candidates for a head coaching job and at least 1 external minority candidate for a coordinator job. So that makes Brian Flores the second minority candidate that they interviewed. So the final one after they already supposedly had Brian Daboll hired. So there definitely is some footing here.
And I want to swing back to the Dolphins then. The whole tank fest. I think Flores specifically brought that in because he said something along the lines of he was just going to be the face of like the tank job. Like he was going to be taking the brunt of the bad play that the Dolphins were producing. And, the owner offering money to tank is kind of a big deal. Johnny, who's a big fan of the Dolphins, he said Stephen Ross should be gone already. Like he's hated him ever since he bought the team. And then Hugh Jackson, our favorite head coach with the Browns, the Raiders, the Bengals. He was an offensive coordinator. He chimed in on tanking, and he was making $100,000 extra bucks a loss with the Browns, which we talked about. It doesn't seem that bad. Like, obviously, when it comes to like integrity of the game, tanking isn't, liked, or it's a frowned upon thing. But when it comes to trying to be able to get your guy in the draft and making an extra couple bucks on it, like that's obvious.
Yeah. So the whole thing with tanking though is every league in professional sports has specific rules and requirements in terms of how tanking works. If there's obvious signs, then there's heavy fines. Like draft picks get taken away. Like all these types of things happen. So, that's why tanking is really an issue. And on top of that, you can't pay a coach outside of what's in their contract. If you're paying them extra money outside their contract, that's also a violation of league's rules. So that's where it really becomes a problem. If you had it, I don't think the league would ever allow this in the contract, but say if we already have a losing season, you can earn performance bonuses other ways or whatever stupid shit like that, and then you can maybe work that out. But regardless, it definitely kills the integrity of the sport, the integrity of competition, and I can understand why it's an issue.
I could see owners doing that. Be like, all right, if my team goes 0-17, he gets a bonus because there's no way he's that bad. And then it's like, all right, incentivize the tank.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure the NFL would look at it like, oh, this owner's just like pulling a joke or whatever. Maybe not because it's the no fun league, but that's how I would look at it.
Definitely no fun league.
So that's it for the Brian Flores stuff. Teams and the NFL have come out and said like, we're very confident in the way we handled our business and everything. And this didn't involve race. It just involved qualifications and stuff. So you hear 2 sides right now. There's still a lot more to come out. So we'll let you guys make your own judgments on what you think is happening over here with the Flores case. But we're going to hop into the head coaching hires. Actually, before we do that, we should probably just talk about the Brady stuff briefly. You mentioned it, how it was rumored he was going to retire, and then the people close to him said, hey, he didn't say that he was retiring. He hasn't made his decision yet. And Schefter's like, come on, he kind of did. And then 2 days later, he eventually announced his retirement. But between that span, Schefter was getting absolutely pooped on.
He was getting obliterated. And I really kind of wish that Tom Brady did say, you know what, because of this, I'm ready to roll. Let's run it back. Let's go win an MVP Super Bowl. Then I can give you 2 middle fingers as I walk out. That's kind of what I was hoping would happen. But it really seemed like his mind was made up at the end of the season, like press conference that he was holding. It seemed like he was just ready to move on. So it's really not too surprising.
And go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was such a shocker when it came out on it was Saturday, and then it just kind of fell down because everyone was like, the reports came out that this is not true. He's not retiring yet. He hasn't made up his mind. And I felt a little bad for Brady because when the news was official, when he announced it on, was it Monday?
Yeah.
It just didn't have the same hit to it. Everyone was like, oh, okay, yeah, we already heard it. And it's like, this is like the greatest football player, maybe greatest athlete in all of sports of all time. And it's like, everyone's like, oh, well, yeah, we already heard it. So, and Adam Schefter was taking so many hits, and I thought that was actually pretty hilarious. But yeah, I do feel for Brady in that way. He mentioned he didn't want to have a retirement tour or anything, and so it kind of feels a little sad because you would think that with a guy of his caliber that you would want him to go out in the lights, everyone cheering, but it's how it went out. And hopefully in these next coming weeks, we're going to have some real big events to celebrate the career of the best football player of all time.
Hey, that's what I wanted. I wanted a retirement tour. Obviously, he didn't. He came out and said that football, you need to give it 100%. He wasn't at that 100%. He wanted to spend more time with family and everything. So that's why he went that route. But let's go over to the head coaching hires now. We have 4 official. We've got 1 rumored. And then we have 4 others, which they've got some leading candidates, but there's nothing like super official. So we'll start with the 4 guys who have officially been hired. Like we mentioned earlier, Brian Daboll going over to the New York Giants. You got Nathaniel Hackett with Denver, Matt Eberflus with the Bears, and then Josh McDaniels with Vegas. I want to ask you guys a question. Out of these 4, who do you think is going to work the best? Out of these 4, who do you think is going to be the first fired?
I'm going to have to guess that the first fired is going to be Josh McDaniels because I think the Raiders are at their ceiling as a team. I don't think they get much better. I don't think McDaniels is going to make them a better team. And so they're going to have to try and move on from Derek Carr eventually, and the rebuild is not going to work, so he's going to get the can.
Or maybe he's just going to back out.
Yeah, it's very possible. He's been down that road before.
Yeah.
The team that I have the most faith in here is probably Denver's Nathaniel Hackett, not necessarily because I know much about him as a coach. I don't really feel one way or another about him as a coach, but Aaron Rodgers has spent like a lot of time talking about how this guy deserves a head coaching job. He'd be a great head coach. If Aaron Rodgers moves on from Green Bay and he wants to go somewhere, if Denver's number 1, they could go and be Super Bowl contenders literally next year. So that by default would make him the most successful.
Yeah, I think that you bring up a good point in that these head coaches are not only relying on their own head coaching prowess, it's the team around them. And out of all 4 of these teams, I think by far the Broncos have the best roster. So I think that Nathaniel Hackett has the best floor to kind of springboard off of into success. But I do think that my favorite coaching candidate or hire out of these guys is Brian Daboll. I think he did a really, really great job with the Bills. I think that the guy that I'm looking at to be maybe a flame out is Matt Eberflus with the Bears. The Bears are going to be the Bears, and they have Justin Fields, and I think that Matt Eberflus's head coaching career with the Bears is heavily reliant on Justin Fields and whether he's able to get him to or use the guys around him to get Justin Fields to develop and become that franchise quarterback that they need him to be. If Justin Fields flames out, I think you see Matt Eberflus go with him.
Yeah, I like Eberflus and Daboll. I just think that they are kind of put in bad situations.
Yeah.
Like the Giants brass have said they want Daniel Jones to be their guy next season. They want to see what Daboll can get out of Daniel Jones. I don't know if that's necessarily the best idea. Like, bring in a coach that wants to build his culture the way he sees fit. And then Eberflus, the Bears are just going to continue to pull old school Bears moves. This league isn't defensively driven anymore. Like, the 2 teams in the Super Bowl right now are there because they have a solid defense and great offenses. I mean, look at the Rams and past years without Matt Stafford and instead with Jared Goff. They go from a great offense to a decent offense. They make it to the Super Bowl once and can only put up 10 points in the Super Bowl. So the offense is key right now. The offense is king, and the Bears just going back into the defensive landscape. I don't like that at all. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have that much of an issue with it now, especially if I'm really in the boat nowadays where head coaches shouldn't be doing the play calling, so it really shouldn't matter. It's just more of a philosophy and team management and how they'd prefer to win the game. So I really don't have a problem with the defensive head coach. That's not my concern. My only other comment on what was just said is for Brian Daboll, I really don't know if any of these quarterbacks in this draft class are going to be better than Daniel Jones anyway. Like, all these guys could very easily flop because no one's really stood out as just a true, okay, this guy's a lock to be an NFLer. Like, this guy's a lock to be a stud in the NFL. So why, start off your coaching tenure with, an uncertainty at quarterback, take say you go Desmond Ridder for the Giants and things don't work out, then you're going to get canned anyway. So you might as well take a year, see what you got with Daniel Jones, and then you can kind of figure out from that point. So I don't have much of an issue with the Giants holding on to him at that point. But yeah, I mean, I really guess I got nothing else on that.
My issue isn't the fact of it being Daniel Jones. My issue is the fact that the Giants are saying this is your only option. Like, if Daboll wanted to come in and be like, yeah, I'm interested to see what we have with Daniel Jones, great. If he wants to go to free agency and gets one of these big quarterbacks, that's cool. If he wants to go in the draft, whatever he wants to do, I think that's what should be allowed. Rather, it feels like the Giants ownership isn't allowing him to do that because they want Daniel Jones to be the guy.
Yeah, that's fair, but this is the right decision anyway. Continue.
I was just going to bring up Josh McDaniels because I feel like, how many times do we have to go through this? I mean, us as Lions fans know the Patriots system just does not work without Bill Belichick. And you're bringing in, their new GM is a Patriots guy. Their new head coach, Josh McDaniels, is a Patriots guy. I mean, I'm so sick of teams trying to do this. And, ever since Josh McDaniels pulled out of the Colts job, I've just had such a, I don't know, the opposite of affinity.
Disdain?
Yeah, I've had such a disdain for him and just everything around him. I could have swore that he pulled out of the Colts job because he was waiting for Bill to retire so that he could be the next guy up. Mm-hmm. And maybe Bill told him, hey, buddy, I got a son, Steve, and he's going to be the new head coach once I retire.
Oh, that'd be horrendous.
Keep it in the Belichick family.
I love the hair. I love the hair.
Horrendous.
It would just be like Belichick forever, man. But getting back on topic, man, I dislike this hire. I don't think it's going to be successful because of the track record of Patriots coaches. The most successful Patriots coach, arguably, maybe Brian Flores. He's out.
It's Mike Vrabel.
Oh, Mike Vrabel.
It's 100% Mike.
He didn't
Mike
coach under Belichick. He just played for Belichick.
It still counts for me.
It does not count.
Why can't I remember his name?
Bill O'Brien?
Bill O'Brien, yeah. If those are the two or three, maybe if you include Mike Vrabel.
Which I do.
No, I'm going to kick Mike Vrabel out because it helps my point.
Right?
If those two are like the shining crowns of the Patriot system outside of New England, that is just what a waste.
All right, since we're talking coaching trees, I just got to say the Sean McVay coaching tree has yielded yielded a Super Bowl head coach way quicker than the Bill Belichick one has.
Mm-hmm. Something to think about.
Mm-hmm. Really is something to think about. It doesn't matter if that coach might be actually one of the worst coaches in the NFL. Still there.
I disagree. 100% disagree. Look, I'm going to come to my team's defense here. You can hate...
Did you change your mind this morning?
No. See, what I thought is I've been going over what I think about Zach Taylor for quite a long time, and really, I opened my eyes on, I think it was either Monday or just yesterday, in the fact that if you've got a bad head coach, you're not making it to the Super Bowl. If your coach has bad play calling, that's fine. You can hate on his play calling because I can hate on his play calling, and I have before. That's fine. But here's the thing.
It was bad.
He created a culture where all of these players came in from the Saints, from the Steelers, from the Giants. Like, he's got players coming in from all kinds of places. He's bringing in draft people, and he's getting all of them to buy into his vision, and he's brought them to the Super Bowl. You can say he's a bad play caller, which I wouldn't argue against, but to say he's just flat out a bad coach, when he's brought in so many different pieces, which the Bengals have not been able to do ever. He got ownership to buy in enough to actually spend money in free agency to get all of that to come in and buy in. And don't just say it's Joe Burrow, because guess what?
It is Joe Burrow.
Guess what? Zach Taylor was the one who went for Joe Burrow. So
the team did.
They had the
Not
first
so-
overall
not
pick.
Zach
Taylor.
He was the
Taylor.
first
The
overall
choice.
pick. Yeah, he
Zach
was locked to be
Taylor
first overall.
has
Every
come
team
in,
takes Joe
built
Burrow.
a culture that everyone is a part of, that everyone is buying into, and that's why they're in the Super Bowl. There is not a bad coach out there right now that is just a bad coach overall, not just play calling, but a bad coach overall that can make it to the Super Bowl.
You know, it's funny because Zach Taylor holds back the Bengals. I'll safely say that. Imagine a different head coach that didn't hold back. the
Culture
team.
might not be there.
They'd be 15-2.
Culture might not be there.
It's-
Play
it's-
calling, maybe.
it's-
Play calling, maybe,
no,
but culture won't
it's-
be there.
Sure, they like playing for the coach, but the team plays so well because Joe Burrow just radiates so much confidence. It's impossible to play bad when you have that confidence coming from your
It's
quarterback.
not one guy. It's a team.
But it's
a team game.
100% is. But every team like falls off, like they radiate from their quarterback. Like it's the same thing with the Packers. The Packers don't always have the most talented roster, but they're always a legitimately talented team every single year because they're riding off the confidence and the swagger and the talent of this elite quarterback.
Oh, so Aaron Rodgers throwing a pissy fit this offseason made them want to go above and beyond and be the best team in the league?
Did you hear what all the players saying about him? They all said, yeah, he's still my quarterback. We all want to play for him. We want to win this with him. Everybody's
Because
still
he's talented.
Yeah, they all radiated and follow around him. It wasn't because Matt LaFleur is creating some unreal culture. He walked into
Start talking about Matt LaFleur being trash then.
That's fine.
'Cause he's not.
He very well might be. We'll see what he does with Jordan Love this year.
I think you underestimate the value of a good culture.
I don't at all.
especially being a Lions fan, where apparently
But
Patricia was building this great culture.
I don't underestimate that at all. I just don't think it's Zach Taylor. Firmly believe.
How is he in the Super Bowl?
Because Joe Burrow is
Only
unreal.
Joe Burrow. Okay, he's the best quarterback in the league then.
He might be. He very well might be.
Who would be better? Don't say
Maybe Patrick Mahomes.
he just beat him though. He
That's
beat
why I
him
said
twice this
maybe.
year.
That's why I said maybe. I don't know why you're freaking out about
Is he
this.
is he the best quarterback in the league? Joe Burrow?
No.
So then how are the Bengals in the Super Bowl if it's just Joe Burrow?
He legit might be the best quarterback in the league. I don't know how you say, the individual talent, the cool things that Patrick Mahomes can do. Sure, that's better. But he's carrying a team like Tom Brady did all these years. Like no other quarterback's done this the way that
How's
Tom
the
Brady
defense
has.
so good?
Well, the defense is playing pretty good. That's fair. That's not a Zach Taylor play calling though.
I
No,
think
it's Lou Anarumo.
Yeah,
who
yeah.
Zach Taylor brought in the room.
Oh, okay. You can make good hires. You can do bad at your job.
I just think that you are super underestimating what Zach Taylor was able to do. He is the reason all of these players are in the room. He is the reason the coaching staff is where it is right now. And he is at least part of the reason they are currently in the Super Bowl.
I think he changed my opinion on him during these playoffs. In the regular season, I wanted him gone, despite the team's, success. But I think that you bring up a good point, Mike, in that the culture perspective, right? I mean, watching that game, oh my gosh, especially in the second half, I was just so annoyed with how they were running their offense. Like, run every single first down up the middle, screen pass on second and third down. It was infuriating. But still, they somehow won that game. And I think there is something going on there that it's not easy to explain. But I think that it is a culture thing. I mean, you can see it. These guys, they just they gather around each other and they fight for each other. It's something that I have seen in the Lions this year. And they also have swag, and swag is something you can't just you can't get from Bill Belichick or something. It's an X factor, and I think that it comes not only with Joe Burrow but with Joe Mixon.
Mm. And
not Zach Taylor though.
we'll talk about the conference championships a little bit more here, but let's talk about some of these coaching rumors now. Jim Harbaugh, the number one candidate right now for Minnesota, and likely to be the guy, at least based on reports. How does that help Minnesota, or how does that hurt Minnesota maybe? And then we'll also look at the factor with Michigan. How does Michigan rebound if they lose their head coach?
I think that it is hurtful for Minnesota just because, Chris and I were talking about this yesterday. How long has Harbaugh been with Michigan 4 years now?
I think it's like 7.
It's like 6 or 7.
Oh, is it 6 or 7?
We were still in high school.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. He struggled in like every single one of those years. I think he did get better almost every year. But this year was the only time that he made like a playoff push. And they still lost. And now he's going for head coaching in Minnesota. If I were a Minnesota fan, I would not be super excited about this. I gotta admit it.
Heavily disagree. You know, it was very clear.
How dare you?
It was very clear. Like year 3 into the Harbaugh tenure at Michigan, it's like, okay, yeah, we all know that we're all excited about the guy coming in. He was a great head coach, but he's clearly just a great NFL head coach. It's a completely different type of game. You know, you got a lot more nowadays. You have a lot more talent in the NFL, so it's a lot more of a passing offense instead of just having to constantly adjust. Okay, I have to be a heavy run team this year. I have to be a heavy defense team this year. We're in college just based on the development of your recruiting classes and how guys are. You have to change that year by year. Where the NFL, you can kind of keep your system a little more consistent and just keep working through that. You've got guys for 10, 15 years possibly, and it's very clear that Jim Harbaugh is better with that when he can get his roots established and keep those roots growing and growing and growing. Where college, they grow and then they're cut off and sent to another farm. So he's very much a better NFL head coach. It was pretty clear his numbers as an NFL head coach are outstanding. He has some of the best numbers ever in the history of the league as an NFL head coach. So I think it would actually be a good hire for the Vikings, and it would really suck for the Michigan Wolverines because it's February. It's hard to find a head coach in February for college football. It's very, very, very hard. There's not as many out there. You have to try to take one away from a team already because everybody's got jobs filled. That's going to suck for U of M.
Heavily disagree. Just with your very first point, you started with he is a much better NFL coach than he is a college coach. He hasn't seen much success or whatever you said when it came to college. But
I didn't say he didn't say much success. He's just a better NFL coach.
I think you start whatever. Either way. He has had success everywhere in the college landscape. Michigan, Stanford. Like, he's only had one losing season with Michigan. He's a phenomenal head coach in both ranks. The only problem is, like you alluded to, in the college game, you got to be able to get the recruits, and you got to be able to get the recruits to stay. And it's hard to do that when you're going up against Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and probably USC now. So it's very understandable why, with him not being at one of those schools, it didn't work out as planned. I think that he's going to do well with Minnesota, but I just don't see him as good as his brother John, and I don't know if he brings any playoff success.
So this isn't a heavily disagree with my first point. You were just trying to mimic.
No, heavily disagree. Both.
Yeah.
Both. So I think that he'll bring more playoff success, which disagrees with Graham. He's thinking it's a bad move.
That's his Graham silly.
And then I'm disagreeing with Chase that this is going to be a fantastic move, just because I don't know if he brings any playoff success to Minnesota. So
he wants Super Bowl Cap.
That's my 2. Yeah, well, Kaepernick's the best player in the world. So
moving on.
Next up, we've got the Jags, the Texans, the Dolphins, and the Saints. They all still have openings. You guys can chime in if you've heard stuff, but for the Jags and the Saints, I've heard Leftwich's name a lot. When it came to Miami, I've heard Mike McDaniels over in San Francisco, and then Houston. I'm hearing a lot more about Josh McCown.
Hell yeah, let's see it. I don't like. Yeah, you want coaching experience as if you're gonna just take a head coaching job right away, but it's a guy who's pretty freshly out of the game, so he's a lot more up to date on how the NFL really is currently for players. So you can understand players a little better than some other coaches can, and he's been playing in football for really 40 years. He's probably been since he was a little kid, like since he was like really young. So if you want to be generous, say 30 to 35 years, whatever. Still, it's a lot of experience in football, and who knows? Maybe he can come and surprise. I mean, if you're gonna be idiots and fire your coach who ended up surprising everybody else, you might as well have a bold hire instead of just a plain vanilla hire, right?
Andy's up there with Calvin Johnson for one of the best Lions receivers of all time.
What?
Josh McCown?
Yeah.
The quarterback?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know he was a Lions receiver.
Yeah, I think he was.
What?
I think Graham's high.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I don't even know what you're alluding to here.
Hold on. Yeah, during the season, McCown began running wide receiver routes during practice and became skilled at it. He lined up by a wide receiver for one play against the Arizona Cardinals on November 19th.
What a stud.
What year was
He
this?
saw extended time at wide receiver during the game against the New England Patriots on December 3rd.
What year was this?
2006.
I do not remember this at all.
What a guy.
Yep.
What a guy.
That's funny.
I felt like I was an idiot there for a second because you guys were looking at me, but I was right.
Well, I mean, when he lines up for one play at wide receiver.
No,
I mean,
it was multiple games.
It's very niche.
He's up there with Calvin Johnson for the greatest Lions receiver of all time.
But anyway, I'm a big fan of the Leftwich hiring for the Jags. It's cool whenever you can get former
it
player.
happens.
Yeah, if it does happen.
You know?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I want that to
The
happen.
Jags are taking so long.
I know. I sure do more due diligence than just shock a column last year being like, I want Urban Meyer. He's my guy. We have to hire him. And then that's
It worked out.
Yeah. So. I like the possible fit for left switch. I like seeing old players go and coach in their old teams. I don't know. I just like that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say though, I saw a funny meme. So it was a picture of a fifth of Fireball. It was a picture of a key, Fireball key, Fire Trent Ball key, Jam of the Jags. Got a good chuckle out of that one.
Nice.
But
Nice
legitimately, he should be fired because he's terrible at his job.
Because he drafted Laviska Shenault. I agree. What a terrible pick.
Because he drafted Travis Etienne when you just
Because he
had
drafted
a
Trevor Lawrence.
100-yard rusher.
Terrible pick.
Yeah, actually terrible pick.
He could have had Davis Mills.
Could have had Trey Lance, who they should have taken.
Wow.
Who? Who? The guy who hasn't touched the field more than 60 minutes?
He started like 1.5 whole games.
Yeah,
he
but
might
he's
start
not,
2 whole games.
but he's not on the field all 60 minutes, is
He
he?
probably was. He's probably been on the field for more than 60 minutes this year.
We'll have to see. All right, well, let's go very briefly because we're already at 40 minutes and we want to talk about these next two things. But very briefly, you've got Hackett and McDaniels. You have Dable and Eberflus. What is the number one move you do? It can involve staff. It can involve player personnel on the team. Anything. Number one move. Give me like 30 seconds per team.
Hackett, it's get Aaron Rodgers. It's just plain and simple. You have
Pretty easy.
you have the relationship already built. You got that connection. He wants out. If you can land him on that roster, there's really nothing else you need. Like everything's in play. Even when Von Miller left last year, the defense started playing even better than they were before, when he was still there. So it shows that it's a sustainable thing that they have going, and they've got enough young talent combined with Aaron Rodgers' elite playmaking abilities where they could have a lot of success.
Dable.
Well, I think you gotta figure out what. Honestly, I don't even know where you start with the Giants. Oh, jeez. What do you do? What do you do? I have nothing I can say with these guys. You got to make sure, number one, you have to build in the draft because you
got a lot of
spent
picks.
so much money. You are so strapped to Kenny Golladay, who did nothing for you, and your draft picks in the past, Daniel Jones, do all you can to make sure that guy succeeds. Saquon Barkley, he's struggling. He's injury prone now. And what are we going to do with that? The Giants are in a tough position, and they're not great in the cap. So I'm not really sure where you go from here.
Can I offer my advice on what I would
please do?
The number one thing the Giants should do is find a way to fix that offensive line.
Yeah.
It fixes a lot of problems.
That's how you help Daniel Jones.
That's how you help Daniel Jones. That's how you help Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of draft picks in this upcoming year. I think they have the 5 and the 7 or something like that. So they can definitely hit.
You got to hit on them.
Yeah.
You have to.
They could legitimately grab 2 offensive linemen at that point. There's a chance Evan Neal's still around if that's the case. It's not likely, but there's a chance because there seems to be a lot of volatility at the top right now in terms of projections. So if he is, somehow you get Evan Neal at 5, then you can get Ike Ekwonu, or you can go Charles Cross, or you can go Tyler Lindenbaum at the 7 pick. You can add 2 elite offensive line pieces. That'd be huge.
But their cap is brutal. They're 28th in cap. They have negative $10 million projected for next year.
That's tough.
And your team is terrible. Oh my gosh.
McDaniels.
Oh man, I don't know. I see how Graham feels. Really for the Raiders, I guess it would have to be kind of, I don't know. I would just try to really number one order of business, I guess, would have to be build a culture conclusive to winning, because there's enough pieces in play where it's at least a playoff team. Like we saw, that this year, but it's just not enough to take them to the next steps. And I think Derek Carr is a quarterback you can win with, not a quarterback that will win for you. So if they can, have that environment conclusive to winning, if you can find a piece or two that can help really boost the offense and the defense, and they could be a possible Super Bowl contender. But it's also a long stretch.
Yeah, I think you got to figure out, first order of business is figure out how you feel about Derek Carr and figure out what path you want to take in that way.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, let's go finish it off with you with Eberflus.
Matt Eberflus. Focus around your young guys. Get them as much development as you can, because you have some good young guys on that team. Starting with Justin Fields, you got to make him your franchise quarterback. You cannot let him fail. They are. Let's see where they're at. They have $30 million to spend next year. So I wouldn't say. Spend it wisely. That's what I would say. I would spend it wisely, because I don't think you're ready to go all in this year. I don't think you're ready to spend big money. I think that you need to make sure that you're focusing on how can we set up Justin Fields the best for success. You've got Allen Robinson going into free agency this year. I would probably re-sign him if I was the Bears. He gives your franchise quarterback a solid piece to lean on. And I think that young guys like that need that. You've got the average age of your team is almost 27 years old, which is tough. That's not too great for the league. So I think get younger. That's a big thing. You have good young pieces, but get younger than you are right now. But they have resources to do it. They have cap. So I think that's where you start with the Bears.
And I think you got to make sure you bring in the right guys as well.
Yep.
When it comes to coaching, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, make sure it's guys that will allow Justin Fields to excel.
Yep.
But let's now move on to the conference championship games. And, the second game, the NFC Championship, started off a little bit slow, as well as the Packers-49ers game back in the divisional round, a little bit slower at the start. But the past 6 games that we've watched in the divisional round and the conference championship round,
it's been the best sequence of football I've ever watched.
Yeah, no doubt.
We've always talked about the NHL playoffs is better than the NFL playoffs. This year is kind of changing that for me. It is, the games have been so damn good, so close.
Yeah.
We've had so many come down to last second kicks, so many come down to last second touchdowns and everything. So it's been so good. It's been such good football.
Yeah. I mean, we came into the divisional round. I think each of us said that we could see any one of these teams going to the Super Bowl. And I think that was what the games showed us. They were all so close. I mean, the divisional round itself, so many games decided in the last minute of the game.
I think all of them.
I think all of them.
They all were.
Yeah. 3 of them were field goals, and then 1 was in overtime.
Yeah. And then these 2 games in the conference championship round, incredible. I mean, we were watching the Bengals game together, cheering Mike's team on, and just the tension in that game. Oh my gosh. The first half looked like, you mentioned it last episode, that you feel like the Chiefs-Bengals game could either be a super close game or a Chiefs blowout. And I was thinking to myself, I didn't say it, I was thinking to myself in the first half, crap.
Yeah.
This looks like a Chiefs blowout.
They were down 21-3, and in the first game, they were down a lot as well, so when that happened, when they went down 21-3, I actually wasn't sweating bullets. Obviously, I wasn't happy about it, but I've seen the Bengals do this too many times, go down early and come back, so I wasn't sweating. But I think the moment I did start to sweat was when we got to overtime.
Yeah.
And the coin flip happened.
Yeah.
And you were screaming at the TV, Brandon Allen, call tails. He calls heads, and it was tails. The Chiefs get the ball first. And what the hell happened? Mahomes throws 3 balls. The first 2 should have been intercepted. The third one finally was intercepted.
The third one was luckily intercepted, too.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about it. If his hand was here instead of here, then it wouldn't have been an interception.
Yeah.
But some great plays made on the defense. I think that's a lot of things that are that's a big thing that the national media isn't really focusing on. I'm seeing a lot of people saying, "Oh, Patrick Mahomes, he just folded," instead of giving credit to the Bengals defense. I mean, the last half and overtime, they only allowed 3 points against the Chiefs. That's pretty impressive. So it was a really exciting game, and Joe Burrow, you talk about how, he could be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He really brought the team back together and performed well.
I mean, what an incredible, that Sam Hubbard, QB spy play, where he just kind of waits in the flat, and then he goes through that hole in the line and sacks him for a fumble. I don't know, one of the O-linemen recovered it, but if the Chiefs, I mean, what a huge play. What a huge play. If the Chiefs or if the Bengals recover that, that's a play we're talking about for a long time. And then obviously, I think it was a Bengals resurgence paired with somehow a Chiefs meltdown. Obviously just watching the game, it wasn't easy to tell which one was bigger. Was it the Chiefs just completely melting down, or was it the Bengals resurging? I think definitely a bit of both. But yeah, Mahomes just kind of airmailing that throw at the in overtime just to get picked. I mean, we loved it.
Right.
We were up on our feet cheering. Von Bell with I think it was both safeties out there, wasn't it?
Bates and
Jesse
Von Bell,
Bates and
yeah.
Von Bell, yeah. So, I mean, what a play. And then them just letting Joe Mixon run down the Chiefs' throat to set up McPherson for the game-winning field goal. What an awesome game.
We all know that I was the change of momentum. I showed up and the Bengals started dominating.
That is true. You showed up. What did you?
I showed up for the second half. Yeah,
at the second half.
Yeah, literally.
I think that the biggest play in that game was at the end of the first half. Patrick Mahomes, 5 seconds left, throws the ball out to Tyreek Hill, and he gets stuffed. Yeah. I think it was Trey Hendrickson and Eli Apple who were actually the two on the tackle.
If the Chiefs score on that, it's 3 points.
They're up 28-10.
They win with that field goal at the end of the game.
Or, if they go field goal, it's 24-10. So
that was the momentum changer, I think.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then we've talked about, the defense. They stepped up. Joe Burrow looks great. We know the wide receivers. T. Higgins had a big game, over 100 yards. Jamar Chase had a touchdown. But Evan McPherson, baby.
Shooter.
100% in the playoffs.
My
what a legend.
Goodness. He is 12 for 12. The record in a single playoff game, or in a single playoff series, I should say, is 14 field goals.
Playoff season,
sure. He already has the record for, in a playoff season, the most kicked without a miss, which is 12. And if he hits 14, then he'll tie the record with Adam Vinatieri. If he hits 15, he'll break that record. And
they're pretty cool.
Draft kickers.
I think he's only 22 or 23.
Yeah, he's young.
So
yeah,
draft kickers.
No, don't draft kickers unless they're special, which Evan McPherson clearly was.
He was special. Yeah.
He's got some moxie to him.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, I was a little disappointed when he ran out for the game-winning field goal. He didn't say anything to Brandon Allen or Joe Burrow. I wanted him to be like, "All right, it's Super Bowl bound.
Super Bowl bound. Let's go." Evan McPherson, the only kicker I drafted in fantasy. I only had one league that we had kickers in. And took the fearsome kicker.
I had 3 kicker leagues this year, and I had 2 kickers. I had Evan McPherson in 2 leagues, and I had Rodrigo Blankenship in 1.
Nice.
The 2 best
Those
kickers
are the
in the
two,
league.
yeah, the 2 goats.
I remember saying to you guys that you guys should draft him and stuff. And, I was rooting for him, obviously, because he's on the Bengals and everything. I didn't know he was going to be this good.
Yeah, he's electric.
All right, LA Rams, San Francisco 49ers. This is a game that the 49ers win if what?
Trey Lance plays.
Oh, that's what I was waiting. That's exactly what I was waiting for.
I thought you were kind of looking for if they picked that ball off.
Well, yeah, Jimmy Ward, he missed a pick on Stafford.
Free interception.
Yep.
And Stafford, up to this game, was perfect in the playoffs. He threw 1 interception. Could have had 2, which would have sealed their fate. But
he still played really well, though, actually.
Yeah.
He did.
337 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Was able to propel the LA Rams to the Super Bowl. This is the second time in 2 years that a team is playing in their own stadium for the Super Bowl. Prior to that, it had never happened. I think it was like
54 years, I think the number was.
Yeah.
So
2 years in a row.
kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Nuts.
that's wild.
Cam Akers, again, didn't really show much.
He at least looks like he's still a very like skilled running back. It looks like he didn't like completely lose his explosiveness or anything, but he just has yet to get it done.
Yeah.
And I know
struggled.
last week you said that Cooper Kupp had negative odds to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
This week, I don't know if that was the case, but he scored 2 anyways.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I looked already for the Super Bowl and he was like minus like 150 or something, which is really ridiculous. I mean, it means he's like he's pretty favored to score a touchdown.
Yeah,
That's nuts.
The star players really stepped up in the receiving game. Cooper Kupp 142-2, Deebo Samuel 72-1, but OBJ, he had 113 yards.
Yeah.
This is a story that I think a lot of people are kind of forgetting about. Obviously, it's fun to buy into Stafford never being to a place like this. You've got Joe Burrow in his second year, 2 very likable quarterbacks. A lot of people are a fan of this Super Bowl matchup, but not a lot of people talking about Odell, and I think that's because Cleveland fans are paying people off not to talk about it.
Maybe, but Odell has looked awesome with the Rams, and him and Stafford are a pretty good fit. And it makes sense with the way Stafford throws the ball and the type of deep throws he tries to make. It lets OBJ try to go out and make a big play, lets him be found a little bit downfield. So it really has worked out. If Bobby Trees is playing, Robert Woods, if he's playing in the playoffs, I wonder how different things are because I don't know how much OBJ would be used.
Yeah.
So some of these play calls would have to be different, and maybe as much as I love Robert Woods, maybe the Rams end up losing because they call slightly more conservatively because they have these more better shorter underneath receivers. I don't know, but anyway, OBJ has looked very good in a Rams jersey. I've been a bit surprised.
Yeah, I think that they brought in OBJ at the right time. I think that if him and Robert Woods were fighting for targets the whole season, I think you might have actually seen a similar disturbance that he caused in Cleveland in LA. But thankfully, him and Stafford have had a good connection. And yeah, I mean, Stafford, man. Stafford. I was talking about this yesterday with Chris and John. I mean, what we saw it for so many years in Detroit, right? And people kept saying, well, he can't win the big game. He can't win the big game. I guess not the big game, but a big game even, because we went to the playoffs 3 times with Stafford on the Lions, and we lost all 3. But here he is, 1 year in LA, and he's going to the Super Bowl. So I think that not only speaks to how bad the Lions have been, but that Stafford is an elite quarterback.
Yes. But I agree wholeheartedly. But I just want to go back to OBJ real quick because I just remember this. Remember during the year we talked about him on the podcast, and I feel like you were on it. Someone else was on it with us, I thought. And you have to talk about, oh, no, he's washed. He doesn't have any chance of having any eliteness ever again.
Washed.
Yeah. I was like, I think he deserves one more opportunity. I didn't think he would like actually look really good. Well, I just thought he deserved another opportunity, but he actually looks really good. And 100% everything Graham said though about Matthew Stafford, guy's just electric. He truly is an elite quarterback. And if he were out of Detroit 3 years earlier, you would have seen even better performances.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like I see people around like, oh, why are Lions fans rooting for Stafford? Blah blah blah, whatever. Like he didn't do anything here, and sure, yeah, that's fine, he didn't. But at the end of the day, I'm just rooting for talent in the NFL, and it doesn't matter if he was a Lions quarterback or not. He has still been a guy who's been a criminally career underrated player, and he's finally getting the attention he deserves.
Yeah, I asked this question to Chris and John yesterday actually, and I want to ask it to you guys. Do you think Stafford would be a guy to do something kind of similar to what Tom Brady's doing, and many players have done in the past, is come back to the team that drafted him and sign like a one day when he retires to retire a Detroit Lion?
1,000% he will. I guarantee it.
Let's go.
I think it kind of depends on the longevity. Like if he stays with the Rams for like another 7 years and they win another 2 Super Bowls, like maybe not.
Yeah. No, with the way he was loved in this community, the way that Kelly Stafford was in this community, I would bet money on it. If I
agree. I think that the response from the fans has really made them
they're cherishing their time in Detroit a little more than they were before.
Yeah, because the fans are just outpouring love to them, even when they're in LA.
Did you guys see what Landon said on Twitter about the situation?
I've seen a lot of things he says, but I don't know if I know what you're talking about exactly.
If he's watching, shout out Landon. But he said something along the lines of, I understand that Lions fans are rooting for Stafford and everything, but don't act like this is a Lions Super Bowl, because it's not.
I never thought it was. Landon. Silly dude.
Me neither. I'm just rooting for Stafford.
I'm just happy that this is the outcome. If it couldn't have been Rams Bills like I wanted, I'm happy it's Rams Bengals.
Yeah.
Because you're at least getting to see two elite quarterbacks with two offensive minded coaches going head to head.
I've been really contemplating over this week. Who am I gonna root for in the Super Bowl?
I've already made my decision.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's picking the Rams.
I'm rooting for nothing. I'm just going to enjoy the game. And
that's a good idea. But I do want to feel emotion and cheer. Right?
Oh,
I don't know.
That's why I've got a bunch of money in my BetMGM account ready to gamble away. That's going to be the emotion.
That is Chase Crawshaw, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, I'm only positive. Only positive, baby.
There you go. Well, that sets up a great Super Bowl between the Bengals and the Rams. Didn't think my boys were going to be here. Stafford versus Burrow, probably the two most likable quarterbacks in the league right now. It's just a great matchup, but you're going to have to wait for our preview because that's coming next week. So no predictions, no preview. Let's now move on very briefly to the Lions offseason and the Senior Bowl. The Senior Bowl has started. We are 1 day into it. Technically, when you're watching this, we'll be like 3 or 4 days into it. But what do we want the Lions to do? They've got 2 first-round picks. They got the second overall pick, and then either the 31st or the 32nd pick, and then you guys also have a very high second-round pick. What would that be, 34?
34, yep.
Yeah.
So what are we thinking right now?
Well, first of all, I would like the Lions to figure out Kenny Pickett's hand size, because I don't know if you guys saw or not, but his hand size just says unknown because he has inverted thumb joints, so they don't know how to properly measure it. So I would like them to figure that out first.
Yeah, we need our top scientists over to the Senior Bowl.
But really, I want to see more. Like I can't safely declare what I want the Lions to do or not to do at this point, other than at the top of the draft, I want them to take the best edge rusher available, which I still currently have Kayvon Thibodeau as number 1 and Aiden Hutchinson number 2, but they're very close. Really, as long as it's one of them, I don't care. Yeah. I can happily root for either one of the two. Other than that, I really don't know. I can't safely say, I want them to for sure take quarterback or receiver or safety, whatever the hell it might be with the second first round pick yet, because I just don't know. I want to see these quarterbacks play in the actual Senior Bowl game, because there's a lot of potential talent there, and there's a couple guys that I do like, and I know a couple guys that Graham likes as well. But it's too early in the practices for me to really gauge what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I want one of the two top pass rushers. I could see a world where the Jags take
Evan Neal,
first overall, and then we have our pick. But either way, I'm fine with either one. So I think that there's no losing situation at the number 2 pick. And yeah, like you said, they could do anything with their second first round pick and with the second round pick. I can't lie to you. I do like seeing Malik Willis in a Lions hat. Mm-hmm. But
hey, if Malik Willis can show that he's actually worthy of the draft pick and he's there at the 31-32, I'm all about it.
Yeah, me too. But I'm gonna let Brad Holmes and his scouting staff do their work, because I'm not. They know a little bit more than me. So if they love him, go all in for it. Yeah, but
no, not all in, not second overall. Go mostly in.
Second overall.
Go mostly
Trade up
in.
to first overall.
Imagine.
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, if there's a guy that they like at quarterback at pick 31 or 32, or if they even feel comfortable enough to let him drop to 34, then I would love that. But I'm gonna withhold my judgment on whatever picks they make until after the draft.
And I do want to say, if they do trade up from the 31-32 pick and they trade into the teens or 20s and they take a quarterback, then I'm gonna be super excited and all for it. That means they really believe in whatever quarterback they might be. So So if that any quarterback at that point, I don't care who it is, I would be excited about it, because that means that it would be one of these 6 that Dan Campbell's seeing up close and personal. So he would really have the faith in them. So I'd be okay with that happening. I just want to put that out there.
Speaking on free agency, just for a second, there's some guys out there that I would really like to see in a Detroit Lions uniform. Topping that list is Marcus Williams, safety from New Orleans.
Marcus Williams.
Oh man, pair him up with Tracy, because right now on the outside they have Will Harris or Dean Marlowe, but Dean Marlowe is on a 1-year deal, and I don't think they're going to bring him back because he didn't really have a huge impact on the team this year. But man, that would be so nice. Marcus Williams and Tracy Walker. Tracy Walker is really underrated. Last season, he had a pretty rough season, and I kind of lost a little bit of hope in him this last season. But he came back this year with a vengeance, and he played so well. And I think it's a real possibility as well because of the connections to New Orleans, and because New Orleans, there's no way they're going to re-sign him. They're like $70 million over the cap, and you can. Teams always do work. Teams always.
I'm
do
brainstorming
work
over here. I'm excited for this here.
Teams always do work to
this
make their cap like. I don't even know the word, but they always are able to maneuver around their cap situation. But I think that Marcus Williams is going to be in the crossfire of that, and he's going to go into free agency.
Well, the Lions they're not going to have to worry about signing a safety because they're going to, here the next week or two, we're going to hear a Jared Goff traded for the 5th overall pick after Malik Willis is a dominating Senior Bowl. So 2nd overall goes edge rusher, whichever one you want. Then 5th overall. Oh, Kyle Hamilton's here. I guess we'll take the best safety in the draft. And then, Malik Willis just passed for 700 yards in 1 quarter at the Senior Bowl, and he's still available at the 31. All right, I guess we'll take him here at the 31. They call him saying 31. I mean, do you get a Super Bowl win?
That's true.
I'm just so disappointed.
Chase,
in this
that is the
whole thought process.
That is the dream. I want to say there's a non-zero chance as well.
I would say that there is a
non 100% chance. That's what I'll say.
A non 100%.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I think that personally, I think Thibodeau has a higher ceiling than Hutchinson, but I want Hutchinson to go to the Lions so badly and Evan Neal to go 1st overall, just because I think the Thibodeau-Hutchinson thing can have an impact for the Lions, kind of like the Bengals with Burrow-Herbert type of thing. Like Herbert, higher ceiling, bigger arm, more athleticism than Burrow, but he can be such a locker room guy, and I think Hutchinson can be the same. He could be a day one defensive captain for you guys, I think. So, and he puts out all the effort, so I think that'd be great. I don't know if Malik Willis will be able to drop all the way down to 31, 32 if he has a great showing, which right now, according to this report by my guy Jordan Reed, Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis have been easily the best 2 quarterbacks in the Senior Bowl.
This is tight end Jordan Reed, right?
No.
Oh, I thought he was doing something like analysis-wise, though.
No. It's REID.
Okay. I thought I saw something about Jordan Reed actually getting into like something like this. That's what I was wondering. Okay.
Maybe. But yeah, those two have apparently been far and above the best 2 quarterbacks out there in the Senior Bowl. So if he continues to have a big showing, I'm not quite sure if he drops all the way. But if you guys are able to get him and then able to get a good wide receiver with that 34 pick, if you don't address it in free agency with like a Michael Gallup or something.
Drake London's not falling to 34.
Treylon Burks dropping all the way down to 34.
Treylon Burks isn't falling past freaking like 15.
No, but I'm right there with you, Mike. I think that is a great point that, Aiden Hutchinson could come in and be a really great locker room guy. And not only that, a dominant player on the defensive side of the ball, but also, you mentioned Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. The Lions are going to need to find their quarterback because, Jared Goff, he did better than I thought he might, at least the second half of the season once Dan Campbell started taking over play calling. But he's not on the caliber of even a Jimmy Garoppolo or something like that, So he's better than Trey Lance, though. But
facts.
But the Lions do need to find their franchise guy, and I don't think that they have him right now.
For sure. I mean, Spencer Rattler should be coming out next year, so
that's okay.
All right, well, that's going to do it for the show, unless you guys have any other things you want to talk about with the Lions briefly.
Super Bowl bound.
Next year?
2023.
We didn't.
Okay.
Did we talk about Sean Payton at all? Because it happened right after we filmed last week or recorded last week.
Maybe not.
R.I.P. Sean Payton.
Didn't
Next
die.
Lions
Nope.
offensive
Yeah.
coordinator. Next Lions offensive coordinator, Sean Payton.
Sean
I mean-
Payton retired. The Lions are going to trade a 3rd-round pick, not this year, but the following year, to make him the offense coordinator in the Lions
Third
Super Bowl.
round pick.
It makes
well,
sense.
they're gonna have to
Our
trade
next
for him.
3 first-round picks.
No, it's okay.
It makes sense why he stepped back because he was like, "Oh wait, Taysom Hill isn't an elite quarterback."
Oh wait, I'm
Well, shoot,
70
I'm
million
screwed.
over the cap.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a break from coaching.
Yeah. Maybe I'll come back when we're in a better situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
imagine 2 years down the road, he just comes back to the Saints.
Once their cap situation's
Yeah.
okay, that would be so
No.
funny.
2 years down the road, Kevin James, Sean Payton.
Let's go.
Kevin James, head coach. All
What a
right.
beauty. All right, well, that's going to do it for the show. We want to thank you so much for coming out and giving us a listen. We've got really big news coming within the next 2 weeks. So be aware of that. But yeah, thanks so much for coming out to this show. If you want to stay up to date with all that we do, you can follow us on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. That's again on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. We also have an Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. All of those links will be down in the description for your convenience. If you are listening on YouTube, if you could please give us a like, a comment, and a subscribe. Make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications and let us know what you think about this episode down in the comments. If you're interested in the Lions and you want to put your input on what they should do this offseason, do that. If it's on the Super Bowl and who you think is going to win, whatever you want to do, just be active down there in the comments. We see you. We like your guys' comments.
Yeah.
And then if you're listening on a podcast platform, if you could, please give us a 5-star rating and a follow. We would really appreciate that. Thanks so much for coming out. And as always, we're not professionals.